Joining me live now to discuss this situation in Sri Lanka is Allan Behm, Director of the International and Security Affairs Program at the Australian Institute. Thank you for your time this afternoon, Allan. Now, what's been the reaction to the PM sworn in as interim president, and how is that going to play out?
Well, two very good questions, I think, Anna. The reaction has been a sense, I think, of a bit of relief because this has been dragging on now for a couple of months, and it is a disaster, of course, for the people of Sri Lanka. I think people have got a little bit of time in which to sort of build up their hopes, because over the next week or so, a new president will be appointed, and a new prime minister most likely will be appointed too. And we'd have to hope that there will be a bit of stability in government. But my word, there's a lot for an incoming government to do, and the people will be demanding some pretty quick action, I think.
And this is the worst economic crisis that Sri Lanka has seen. What is the interim president promising? It is only a short time, as you say, but what could we see in the short term?
Look, he's going to have to negotiate some kind of effective agreement with the International Monetary Fund. Sri Lanka will have to be bailed out. There is no alternative to that. That bailout will impose quite a lot of new conditions, I think, on how the Sri Lankan economy is managed. There will need to be much higher levels of transparency, of course. The management of Sri Lanka's debt is extremely difficult under current circumstances because it simply has no foreign exchange. It's been reliant for at least a decade now, principally on remittances from Sri Lankans working abroad and, of course, from tourism. And the COVID has knocked tourism to pieces. So it'll be a big restructure and I think pretty hard times for the people of Sri Lanka while the economy is settled back on track. A couple of years, I should think.
Now, he's vowed to change the constitution to clip presidential powers. Do we know what that could look like, and will it be enough to satisfy protesters?
Again, another very good question. Quite a lot has got to be done to get the constitution capable of sustaining a working economy. The constitution was quite seriously amended by the Rajapaksa family, because there are a couple of them who were presidents and prime ministers, to maximise the power of the president, while at the same time imposing very, very strict censorship laws, very strict controls on the media, very, very strict law and order controls on the population, building up the army to be an instrument for the enforcement of the law. All of these things have, I think, left Sri Lanka politically in a mess. And as we touched upon earlier, it is economically in even more of a mess. So amendments to the constitution are very important, but they also will take a bit of time.
Now, just on the Rajapaksa political family, the former president's arrived in Singapore after fleeing. His brothers have been banned from leaving the country. Is this the end of that political family that's ruled Sri Lanka for decades?
Well, you'd have to hope so, Anna, but they've been pretty durable. There are quite a lot of them. The Prime Minister's son was recently caught in the frame a bit, and there are allegations of corruption involving him. So it will be very important, I think, that the opposition parties in Sri Lanka form a united front, so that they can form a credible and enduring alternative to the Rajapaksa family's party. If they can do that, I don't think we will see the Rajapaksa family back again. But the big test, of course, is for the opposition to form a measure of unity.
So do you think then we could see a change in the way Sri Lanka's led, moving away from excess at the top, while 22 million people are facing shortages of food, fuel and medicine?
Look, I think so. Certainly, if the incoming president can settle a deal with the IMF, which will get critical things like fuel, medicines and fertilisers running back into Sri Lanka, then some repair to agriculture, that means food production could happen quite quickly. They desperately need fuel, they desperately need medicines. So, as I say, if the opposition can settle the government down, I think the IMF will come to the party very quickly. Already other major donors, such as Japan, the ADB, they are looking at restructuring debt so that the government will be able to function properly and the Sri Lankan people will be able, at least for the time being, to look to an uptick in their standard of living. It's important to remember that Sri Lanka actually hasn't had a bad standard of living for the last 40 or so years. It's only in the last 3 years that there's been this precipitate decline. And if that can be repaired quickly, I think Sri Lanka could look to a measure of normalcy in the way in which the country operates.
That's a positive point to finish on. Thank you, Allan Behm, for your time this afternoon from the Australian Institute.
A pleasure, Anna. Thank you.